So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, the new show that we're disappointed in.
I mean,
And see.
I really,
Okay.
I know words are good. I just, I really liked Wonderland and what it kind of, the idea of Wonderland when it was brought up in the original Once Upon a Time. I thought Mad Hatter was an interesting character. I think Sebastian played him well. And, when they announced the idea of Wonderland, I thought that was a really interesting, for the spin-off, I thought that'd be a really fascinating idea to kind of, a nice way to take a look into a world that's been introduced on once without making our characters go there for no reason or devoting story time that wasn't needed. I just, there's a lot of problems with the show. There's a lot of problems with the show, but one of the main things for me is just, I have literally not 1 ounce of investment in Alice and Cyrus. And first of all, I think that's telling me that I should not be watching the show.
Right.
But it's fascinating to me because I've got no idea why. Like, I was catching up because I got behind due to travel, and I'm like, I bought into the love story between Charming and Snow right away. Like, I bought into a ton of these love stories on once right away, even when they're messed up, whatever. I enjoyed them. I was able to get invested. I just feel like there's just so much that they're trying to do, and I just don't care about these two people.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so you love him, but you think he's dead, but you know he's not dead, and then it's just like, I don't care if you're willing to do all this stuff, to take all these things and go through all of this to keep them, and it's, I just want to make angry noises because this show.
You can.
I feel like this show.
Fine.
I know, but I feel like this show should be so good. I feel like it should be interesting. I feel like it should be enjoyable. This world should be so much fun.
See, I disagree with that.
You don't think it should be fun?
Wonderland is not a fun universe. Like, there's a reason that all these other shows, when they talk about really fucked up things, use the term Wonderland. Because Wonderland from the Alice in Wonderland tale
I mean, more
is
fun in terms of
up.
enjoyment versus actually it being like fun and Disney joy.
But okay. But even that, it's hard, I think, to enjoy such a dark and twisted world when they're not doing the dark, when they're not going there. You know what I mean? Like they're trying to Disneyfy this Wonderland. They're trying to make it like once, so that if you
are a family,
or even if you're just a fan of once, you can take the sense of hope that you get out of that show and apply it here. But to me, that misses the point of Wonderland just completely. And I said from the beginning, I don't necessarily want to watch a spin-off about Wonderland because of how fucked up Wonderland is, and I don't necessarily want to watch that week to week. It depresses me. It's weird. It's just too much. But then when I saw that they weren't doing that, I actually said, you know what? I would rather them do that.
Right.
Even if I don't want to watch it, because what they're doing now is just, it feels like a ripoff of Once Upon a Time. Like, it feels like the same themes, the same journey from A to B to be reunited that we've seen them do on Once.
Right.
With fewer characters,
Yeah.
and characters that I don't necessarily think that I have no investment in Alice and Cyrus. I had some. I think part of the reason I didn't have a lot was because I didn't know a whole lot about why I should care. They just told me I should care.
Exactly.
But I was like, I'll go with you and pretend I care for a little while until I start to feel otherwise, because that's what fairy tales are. I mean, it's always like first, oh, I love you at first sight, and then we get married tomorrow, and then it goes wrong. But that being said, I just felt like they have so few characters that if the chemistry doesn't work on all the levels, I don't want to watch them, and I just feel like it doesn't work. I feel like the Queen is just too one note. I don't know why Jafar is there. I feel like the minute we knew he was coming, we knew immediately where Cyrus was, and I said, well, there's no surprise in that, and that bums me out because he's a friggin' genie, and who else is going to have the genie but Jafar?
Right.
We know that story, but I don't know why it's Jafar's story doesn't really fit with Wonderland.
Right.
I don't feel like they've made it make sense that he's with them. There's just a lot of it that I don't know that I had such high expectations for it to then say it's my most disappointing show, but I totally see why you do, and I definitely do think it's one of the shows of the fall that like does not work for me on any level. And I actually did stop watching it because I don't like to torture myself.
I mean, it's a nice long break now, but so I might change my mind.
But that's the thing. Like, do you want to go back and watch it again? And if you say no, why would you go back and watch it again?
At this point, because it is a limited series, I'm curious to see if they make it worth my while.
But they haven't already, and they're at least halfway through.
Yeah, but I also have, I think, more tolerance for letting shows find their footing than you do.
Yeah, but there's no finding your footing when it's a limited series. Like, you have a clear arc, and if you're halfway through your arc and you're not invested, why would you think you're going to get invested in the end? No. That's the way I look at it. Like, there's a lot of limited series.
Yeah, I don't know. It's something. Yeah, it's just I like, and I will say it's one of the things that interesting to me is that I know, like, for instance, they have some of the things that are coming up sound interesting, so I might, depending on when it airs, if it airs, etc., I might end up tuning back in. But yeah, I just, because I liked Once, especially so much in the beginning.
Yes.
I had hopes that they'd be able to make this work, especially with a love story. Once does love stories well,
and
it's just, but yeah, like you said, they've basically told us these two people they're fated, they should be willing to die for each other, etc., etc. And it's like, we've seen moments that that they love each other, but I don't. It's not enough. I feel like you said, feel like I'm being told versus actually seeing that. Yeah, this absolutely makes sense. It just, and visually.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's
great.
It's not even just that, because that sounds, and it sounds mean to just nitpick. Oh,
it's not a nitpick.
No,
I mean, when you know your budget, you know what effects you can afford, and if you cannot afford things, don't do them. But it's not even, and I'm not even saying like expensive, whatever. There were scenes where they were in half of a green screen forest and in the real forest, and they don't match. And all you need to do is color treat it.
Well, and I was gonna say, quite frankly, the scenes that they're doing in the real environments are making everything so much worse. Because if it was
because you notice how different it is.
That was something that stood out to me earlier on in the run, where I was watching an episode and I was like, okay, they are by real trees, like the trees that are actually in the room, like whether they're actually
but they're in the room, but there's visible trees, and it's half green screen and half green
or whether they're in the forest somewhere, actually shooting on location. Whatever they're doing, they're actually in the environment with something that's that
real,
they can touch.
Practical.
If the next scene is something that looks like out of a cartoon.
But that's the thing. Wonderland is acid trippy. Like Alice in Wonderland, it should have been all green screen, and they should have embraced the bad effects and said, "This is what it is because this is what Wonderland is."
And I would have.
It's supposed to be popsicle and surreal world.
I would have been okay with it if it was all the same green screen. But when you're mixing in real with the green screen, it's just making me like. There were a couple episodes where it was so distractingly bad. That I was just like looking at the TV, going, I'm not even watching this on HD.
Like, you're not even sure if it's finished cut at a certain point because it looks like it's not, and then they aired it, and you wonder, why would you air that?
Yeah, and I think ABC did them no favors by rushing it to fall.
Yeah, that's true.
I think that it could.
But I also think that like it wasn't a complete story anyway. Like the presentation that they sold was one great element. But it was one piece of what needed to become more complicated. The way we see with Once Upon a Time, we have all these characters and all these rich backstories, and some weeks we're heavy on this couple, and some weeks we're heavy on this couple, and what that does is it weaves together to create a really rich world, even if you don't like every character in that world. Here, we have 5 main characters. 4 in the initial presentation, plus the rabbit, which I don't count because it's so creepy. But it's supposed to be creepy. Like, that's the one thing they did well, I think.
Yeah, the rabbit's
and so it's these people all the time, and all it is your typical, I love him, but he's all the way over here, and we can't get to him, and this one has a vendetta for this one. Like, it's just the very base cliches that you notice them more when that's all that's going on, and you notice that, like, that's just scraps of story. That, to me, doesn't feel like fully fleshed out anything.
Yeah, and I was thinking about this earlier today when I was remembering that we were going to talk about this. it's a big bummer that they don't have the Mad Hatter. Like, obviously,
It
Sebastian
is.
Stan is super busy and doing 5 million things, and it's.
But
probably
it,
for
I
the
mean,
best
but
they
that's a
didn't-
character that like you need in that world. Like they brought in the Cheshire Cat, and it looked really creepy, and like it worked for what it was. But like if you're gonna populate Wonderland, populate it with its actual iconic characters.
Right.
Like don't, and if you can't do it, then don't do it. Maybe Neverland should have been the spinoff. Neverland was
Neverland
awesome.
would have been a fascinating. spin-off.
So, and Robbie Kay should get his own show because he was fantastic.
Yeah, he was really good. And that's how we're ending things on a bummer note.
But maybe we'll talk about something happier next time.
Maybe. Oh God.
So stick around because we're going to do a little bit of a 2014 mid-season what to watch exciting moments. Danielle at Danielle TBD.
Marissa Rothman.